Stadium. The Arizona Wildcats against the Aztecs of San Diego State on a sunny, muggy, hot day. Fires to the side, to Cowing, to the corner, to the end zone. Touchdown, Arizona. Freshman wide receiver, Delora, hips that way, throws that way. Touchdown, 8. Burmeister gonna go to the end zone and got it. Touchdown, Aztecs. And it's Tyrell Shavers. This is the first touchdown at Snapdragon Stadium. Capping a 32-yard drive in 7 plays, 10-yard touchdown. Burmeister around, and Delora fires late and shouldn't have. Intercepted by San Diego State. Side that tight end back to the right, and Burmeister on the slant, and it's picked off. Intercepted by Arizona. That's Jackson Turner. So turnover for turnover, right back to the Wildcat.
Well, in between those turnovers was really an unnecessary hold.
So last year it was Aztecs time, 38-14. And the guys from Tucson returned the favor on the road today with a 38-20 win. Similar scores.
All right, it's another Sons of Montezuma podcast. It's your host, Mateo San Diego, and I'm joined by my co-hosts. We're not having any fun today. No fancy intros, no fun today. So I'm joined with K5 James. What's up, James?
What's up?
And it's Dirtball Dan. What's going on, Dan?
What up?
All right, guys, it's good to see that you guys made it out of the Dragon all in one piece. To all our listeners, I hope everybody made it out of the stadium without suffering some kind of heat exhaustion or fainting or anything of that nature. So the Aztecs lost, as we all know it, in the home opening of the Snapdragon Stadium, 38-20 to the Arizona Wildcats. And we got to sit here and talk about it because it happened, right? It happened. And I don't know, guys, when the game and everything was all said and done on Saturday, like, man, I just look back and it's like, what a week for San Diego State football. Like, just an incredible, fascinating week to be capped off with Saturday, how the proceedings went of that day. The hottest Aztec game ever recorded in history. Like go figure, right? It's San Diego State. It's Aztec. This is Aztecs football, guys. Like, should we have expected anything less than what happened on Saturday with the heat and just, I had a great time at the tailgate, but you didn't have that. It felt like it had a little bit of that. Like, oh man, this is Aztecs football. Like, no wonder a day like today would happen like this.
I definitely felt that after the game, just the way the actual game went with a brand new stadium. The weather, the hot takes. I was going to start off this by just saying, don't expect anything positive. There's going to be a lot of negative in this. So if you don't want to hear negative from me, you can mute me when I'm on. But no, it was just the team looked like a mess. I couldn't take one thing positive out of the game.
Yeah,
the score wasn't even indicative by how bad we actually got beat. They dominated the game. We got lucky with that punt block. It wasn't even a punt block, by the way. It was kicking it into the back of the up man. It wasn't anything that San Diego State really did. I was pissed the whole game. I was pissed after the game. It was just it wasn't a good day. It started off really good. The tailgate was fun. It was really, like, my whole family had a really good time in that parking lot. So that was really good. But man, that game was hard to watch. And then when you're in that heat, it makes it even harder to watch. And there are some things beyond, I know we're going to get into the shade issue and whatnot. But there was some things beyond that I think really need to improve at that stadium, beyond the heat and stuff.
Okay. So before we go any further, because we're going to get all into it, I'm starting to wake up a little bit. So I do want to give a big thank you to everybody who stopped by the tailgate, because it was amazing. Like, I had a blast with you guys, with all the friends and Aztec supporters, Sons of Montezuma supporters that came through. It was burning hot. Once we kind of got there and started setting up, like you could just feel it. You knew the heat was just gonna just keep coming and just pouring down on us. That sun was just unbearable. But everybody who showed out and made the most out of it. The music was going. We had the live stream going. So I definitely do got to say a big thank you to all the live stream crew, Erica, Aaliyah, my cousin, Mike, Zeke, Jorge, Sam, DJ Sam was out there, spinning some music, and of course just everybody for setting up. TJ McKay was cool enough to meet up with all of us, the former Aztec TJ McKay, and it was just a wonderful tailgating time. Everybody was excited. The heat was super hot, but the anticipation of the game and finally being able to watch the Aztecs play was, it was enough to propel us to get inside and be excited. And you're right, Dan, that was the highlight of the day, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, the highlight started at 10 a.m. and ended about 11:30.
Even though it was a lot of fun and everything, the tailgate, it was still like bordering on uncomfortable. Like you couldn't really enjoy yourself because it was just so hot. And even in like the shade, the heat was relentless due to the humidity. So like it even started like in the parking lot. Like, we all, once you get a few beers in you can power through stuff like that. But at the same time, man, it was like all our kids are some troopers, man, for hanging in through all that tailgating and that heat and not complaining too much, man. So we got to give credit to all the kids that were there and all the wives that are the people that don't really have a deep connection to San Diego State like we do. You got to give them a lot of credit for hanging in there in that tailgate, because even the tailgate was rough, especially as you got, like you said, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, that's when it started getting really bad.
That blacktop, man. We have that picture of Clint laying on it. And I was thinking, damn, dude, that had to be miserable for him.
I don't know how he stayed down there that long, dude, on that photo, because we took like a couple, I think. Okay, so we spoke with Jason Shear last week, got his preview of Arizona. And I mean, he knows the team. Everything he gave us last week, a heads up on the team, everything that he gave us was pretty spot on. I think he had a really good insight, obviously, to Jaden DeLora, to Jacob Cowling. And to me, that's the story of the game, is that quarterback and receiver duo. That connection, 3 touchdowns, just absolutely, they were just toying with the Aztecs defense, it felt like. Of course, when you have time, which DeLora had, because there was no pass rush whatsoever, you can pick any defense apart. But in particular, that receiver is very talented, and you could just see it. 10 points right off the bat in the first quarter. And were you guys, how worried were you guys in that first quarter when we're down 10-0 and you hadn't seen much out of our offense at all? We're all excited to see Braxton get out there, and even from that first drive, that first 3 and out we had, the offense just did not look like they were on the same page whatsoever.
To me, it wasn't even the offense. It was the fact that Arizona had 2 drives and San Diego State didn't come close to slowing them down. You could just tell right away the defense looked lost. I was thinking, okay, maybe, it's like first opening jitters, this first drive, they went down and scored. Okay, get it out of the way, get your stuff together. But they never really did, man. That defense didn't look anything like last year's defense. So many missed tackles, guys that were open, and DeLora having time to sit back there and just kind of pick apart. And they did get a little pressure on him, but he was able to just kind of step aside and find his guy. And he always had somebody open, it seemed like. And then once he did complete it to that guy always forced somebody to miss a tackle, and they got an extra 10. It seemed like they were getting 5, 10, 15 yards a clip pretty much at will. They never really got Arizona behind the chains when Arizona was on offense. And that was scary. I was like, oh man, like if they can't get him behind the chains, we're going to be in trouble, because they're not going to give the offense time to find their legs. So yeah, to me, that was the eye-opening scary thing in that first quarter and half.
And that was something that Jason, when I asked him about DeLora, like what was his main attribute that he liked from him, and it was along those lines that, hey, even if you get pressure on him, he's got a coolness about him in the pocket that he can sidestep. He can make things happen. He's not necessarily going to run on you with his legs, but he is going to maneuver the pocket and find an open receiver. He just keeps his coolness about him, and that's definitely something that I saw. I hate to admit it, but it is something that seemed to stand out with Delores' game.
Watching it, I couldn't believe like the difference in the skill position players from Arizona. I mean, they're really good, and they made our defense look really slow. The front seven looked like they were playing with just weights on their feet. Their DBs or defensive backs, they are always a step behind everything, even on plays where they didn't get a completion. There's a lot of times that Arizona even had more opportunities than they shown, because maybe the ball was overthrown or something. But they look like they just have a lot more talent. I'm speaking from their offense compared to our defense. Their talent level on their offense, the speed and athleticism on their offense versus our defense, it looked drastic. And it's not something I'm really saying, but it looked like our front. It looks like we have a little heavier defensive front. We used to have these more tweeners along the line that could just get into the gaps and create a lot of havoc. And there was absolutely no havoc created by our front seven. There was nothing. We couldn't stop the run. We couldn't stop the pass. We couldn't get pressure. I don't know. I'm curious if maybe we're underestimating some of the losses that we had. I went through them with James, and we were walking out, and as I was saying them, I'm like, dude, you know what? Our defense did lose a lot, and maybe they were a little underappreciated, because, man, it didn't look like our defense should be on the same field with their offense.
Well, I think Cam Thomas is obviously the biggest one that you think of, but then when you also think of Trenton Thompson, when you think of Taylor Hawkins, and then when you think of Segun Alubi, that's a big one right there. But
let me touch on that. And that was part of the issue. I thought was Alubi was one of the fastest guys on our team. Right. Cam Thomas was an athletic defensive line. Like, it looks like when you look at the three that are running out there and the speed that we have at linebacker, it's not the same. And I'm curious to see how the season's going to progress. Is it just Arizona is that explosive, or we have some deficiencies on their defense?
Well, they're definitely a different team. I had a buddy of mine send me earlier today, and I mentioned it to you guys earlier as well, on SB Nation. They were taking a look at the Pro Football Focus grades, the PFF grades and whatnot, and they ranked all the Arizona roster. Now, don't ask me to explain that formula down, because I can't exactly do it. I try to study up a little bit and kind of, okay, well, what are they really looking at? It's all performance stuff, right? So it's all independent. It doesn't really depend on the outcome of the play. It's more that individual player's performance and what they did. And, well, obviously a 90 point, right? The wide receiver, Jacob Cowing. But their running backs, their three running backs, also fairly high, above 70, 76, and an 80. When I saw that DJ Williams, the Auburn, I mean, the dude was just, running over dudes, dragging people. In that second half, when they just ate the clock up, they were getting whatever they wanted with him on the ground. And by that point, you got to figure the defense has been out there all day in that heat. And he was a bulldozer, man. So I think you do have to give Arizona a ton of credit in this game. It's a completely different team than what we played last year. Okay, so that's just that little thing. I do want to learn more about that PFF formula, though. It's kind of interesting.
My only problem with PFF and their grading like that is, unless you are part of that staff, you don't 100% know for sure what that individual player is assigned to do. You have a pretty good idea, but like different offensive line coaches have different way they teach blocking, different receivers coaches have different way they teach route options and stuff like that. So unless they're part of the staff, there's no way they can know exactly what that player is supposed to be doing. They've got a pretty good idea and they can make an educated guess. but they may be grading a player poorly for something that the player did exactly what he's supposed to do. Gotcha. So that's my biggest issue with PFF. You know, it's a good thing to use to kind of get an idea, but it's still a flawed system. It's not the perfect system.
Okay, so what do you guys want to talk about? Should we talk about?
Let's go to the offense, man. We kind of beat up on the defense. Let's beat up on the offense now.
Okay, so it's interesting that you bring that up, James, as far as like the different ways that a staff, maybe they want a certain play blocked in a certain, they want a certain scheme performed a certain way. Not everybody may run a similar scheme, but the offensive line coach may want it blocked a different way than somebody else who runs the same scheme. So there's a lot of variables. So what do you guys think in terms of the offense? Because, you know, we heard a lot about Braxton. We heard a lot of confidence coming into this game as far as, you know, what he's going to show Aztecs fans. And, you know, we're going to see some things that we hadn't seen before. And, you know, I don't know if we can put it all on coaching, play calling. Is it just simply execution? You know, you could definitely see his game where he'd go back, try to go through his progressions as well as he could, but if it wasn't there, he was going to take off with it. And he suffered a lot of hits. You know, the helmet got knocked off a few times, man. It wasn't pretty out there. What did you guys walk away seeing Braxton Burmeister in action for the first time?
I walked away from that game thinking, offensively, we still don't know what we are. And we look to be running the ball well. It seemed like we were getting 3 yards at the minimum on every run. But we didn't keep it going. There were times where I'm yelling to James, dude, just run it 2 more times. It's 3rd and 1. Just run it 2 more times, no matter what. Tell yourself you're going to run it. And then sure enough, they pass the ball or something. But they don't know what they are. They say they want to be this running team, but I'm not sure we want to be a running team because, at least from a traditional sense, because there was a lot of organized Braxton runs, a lot of design plays for him to run, but our running backs were running the ball really well. And even the stats bear it looking back, that's the first time I saw him. But we ran the ball for 170 yards. And some of that, like Chance Bell early on, was getting 3 yards every time. I think we want to be a better passing team than we're actually capable of being. And this was the game, especially with the sun out, let's just run and pound them. And it didn't seem like that was in the cards.
They threw in obvious running situations, and then they passed in they ran in obvious passing situations, especially in the second half. They were running on 3rd and 14 or whatever. So I knew right away. I was like, why aren't you coming out running the ball? You want to be physical. Yes, we would like to see some more passing, but you got to establish the physicality in the running game. And then that opens up the play action and the RPOs and stuff like that. It didn't seem like they ever really tried to establish the run. And if you're expecting to be a physical running team that can pass it a little bit, or that can be explosive in the pass game, you got to establish that big physical running game. And like Dan said, it's not like they weren't having success running the ball. They didn't break any long runs or anything like that, other than that one that was called back for the hold. But they never really tried to establish their physicality and their momentum running the ball. They never gave Chance Bell a chance to really get 3 or 4 carries in a row. So yeah, my biggest thing is it didn't seem like they established the run, which we all feel like they need to do.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in because I got to give SD Sports Fiend some props. So if you guys are on sonsofmontezuma.com, you realize that Fiend writes some really, really good game previews. His 3 keys of this game were very similar to what James said on the podcast, right? You want to be able to run the ball. You got to establish the line of scrimmage. That's always number one. These are Dan made a little joke about it. Dude, last week, what'd you say? That was like Newt Rockney's, or what did you say? That was like Newt Rockney's. Yeah. But dude, it's the game of football. It's the toughest man wins. You got to impose your will at the line of scrimmage. And I'm right there with you guys. One of the keys that Fiend had was we got to be able to run the ball. Plain and simple, with the stable of running backs that we have, with the big, young offensive lineman guys that we do have, especially on that right guard and tackle side. I mean, they're young, but they're huge. You want to get them in that momentum of running forward, pushing the line forward, especially for young linemen. I would think you would want to build that confidence up in their first start ever. You want them to start moving forward and pushing that line back, and then open it up for some of those chunk plays like what Dan wanted, right? So much. You got to have those chunk plays.
If you take, 49 of those yards out from quarterback runs, it's 120 yards from our running backs. But our running backs were running the ball really well. And like they didn't really give them the opportunity to just control the game. And I'm one of these guys that expects Braxton to be able to air it out eventually. But this was the game that we were having such success running. Just keep doing. Don't try to James said it perfect. They were trying to outthink themselves, it looks like, from our novice view. But
your point, Dan. Cam Davis, 8 carries, 39 yards, 4.8 a carry. Jalen Armstead, 5 carries, 33 yards, 6.6 a carry. Bell, 8 for 30, 3.75 a carry. Bird, 3 for 22, 7.3 a carry. Like, all those guys should have had twice as many carries.
We never get into the play calling. Hindsight's 2020, right? If some of those plays worked, we're not having the same conversation, right? So I don't really like to get into play calling so much, but I want to know what this team is going to be, what our offense is going to be, what the philosophy is going to be, because it seems like we're trying to mix perfectly, trying to satisfy the run and the pass perfectly, while mixing in some design gimmicky plays. Like, what is this team? Like, what do we want to be? What does this team want to do? You say they talked the big talk about wanting to run and being a power of football, but they had a lot of opportunity. We were getting 3 yards a carry, and they could have, could be 3rd and 3 every single time, and you'd still have the opportunity to run or pass on those downs. And obviously, when you're seeing the other team just go up and down the field, you want to give our defense some rest. You got to run the ball. We got to drain the clock a little bit. So, no passes. This game was a very bad football game. So the players don't get a pass, the coaches don't get a pass, and some of the fans don't get a pass either.
We'll get into that in just a second, because I do want to address something. Even in that second quarter, there was a golden opportunity to tie this game up. Despite all the offensive miscues, all the defensive, missed tackles and whatnot, there were still big opportunities.
We ran the ball, but got caught with a holding right around the corner. And, it's going to happen. It was an unnecessary hold. It was a huge momentum shift, though, because the very next play, the ball gets batted up in the air. Arizona intercepts it. And just when you thought we were back in this thing, the whole momentum shifted right before the end of the half. And it's like a 14-point swing or so. So
the game ended right there.
That was the turning point of the game.
That was the game, because the team's just going to get more exhausted from the heat. And it was just the morale. You could even feel it in the fans. Like it was like a sucker punch to the stomach.
But even in the third quarter, we were down 2 scores or so. And, like you said, we get that phantom pump block, right? the defense kind of created that opportunity there, right? Like can we just talk about Jack Browning? Can we talk about Jack Browning and how amazing of a game he did have, though? A 44-yard field goal.
That's the thing. I was going to say there's no bright spots that came out of this, but there is. It's him. But I'm just so sick of talking about kickers and punters. That's the best player on the team. I don't want to talk about that anymore. I want to talk about quarterbacks. I want to talk about running backs, wide receivers, the linebackers. I don't want to talk about the punter and the kicker anymore.
Well, he did set the team up in a great position, though. That was an amazing punt, and we got the pump block for a touchdown, a phantom pump block. But even with that, the offense had a chance to get us back in there, and settling for a field goal on that 4th down. I'm not going to argue too much on that. I would have gone for it.
I hated that.
Yeah. You got to go for it, but to see the I think we mentioned about it as well. When they brought Haskell in, they moved the ball, but didn't it feel like it was just very cautious? It was like a very, 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 very cautious way of just kind of methodically moving the ball down the field a little bit, eating up the clock, not worrying about the clock. Just, okay, we're gonna play this a little cautious.
No, it definitely did. So at the time, James and I were thinking, dude, did they just switch? They just pulled Braxton for no reason, which was going to be odd. And you know what? The whole situation's still a little bit odd because it seems like he could have went and out back and played. And I think he would have given us a better chance to win that football game. If he was able to get back in there. Yeah, they were really cautious. I think what happened is maybe they saw some nerves from Will when he fumbled that shotgun snap, which really screwed up that play to the fade to Shavers, because it just ruined the whole play. Maybe they're trying to be cautious, but they probably weren't expecting to throw him in there.
Well, thank everybody for coming out. Obviously, we appreciate Aztec Nation and our students and the show itself. Coming out and enduring the heat. And it was hot, and I guess we've been through it, so we all know that. Obviously, we're disappointed in how we played, how we coached, in losing a football game. Our focus this week is to obviously improve, play better at every position, coach better at every position. All three phases, there are things that we need to do better. So we got to continue to do that. Offensively, we got to convert on third downs. We didn't do very well there, and when you don't convert on third downs, you're going to be out on the field longer defensively, time of possession, and so we need to do a better job there. Defensively, we didn't tackle. We missed 35 tackles, and that's a number that you don't hear very much when you talk about missed tackles. They converted 6 out of 13 in third downs, so that's almost 50%. We've got to play better. Special teams, we blocked the punt. Or push the guy basically kind of into a block punt, and then we got a punt blocked, and that can't happen. For us, we've got to win the special teams and use better techniques, and we'll do that.
Okay, can we throw some shade? Can we throw some shade at those that deserve to throw some shade on them? Because that was the big controversy, Shadegate. For some reason, on Twitter and social media, we got all these weirdos complaining about how the stadium was not built correctly because there's not enough shade. There's one account in particular, and you know what? I got to credit the video because the video was very well made. It was like documenting everything that was going around, people, giving out free waters. The staff were giving out free waters, people seeking shade underneath the concourses. Like, the video was very well done. But the point of the video and the text of the video was just so off base, and every other comment that has been in support of that is just absolutely ridiculous. So this is college football. This is San Diego. This is, I get it, Labor Day weekend. It's usually the hottest weekend of the year. But people, this is San Diego, America's finest city, who's known for the weather, the year-round, perfect, flawless weather for the one day out of the year, the hottest Aztec game ever recorded. Like, building the stadium different wasn't going to solve this issue. Like, we posted up pictures of Tucson, Arizona, and the Wildcats Stadium, which we were at last year, which was, super hot, even at nighttime. That stadium is completely exposed to the sun, and it's in Arizona. So for one game out of the year, like, it was a day game in September, I get it. But please stop with the Shadegate. It's ridiculous.
I can't even believe this is a topic.
Yeah, frankly, yeah. I don't even know
if I want to talk about it because it's so ridiculously stupid. We don't have day games. we play at night. It's not going to be that hot. In fact, next Saturday it looks like it's going to be a tropical storm. Like, they're going to say something about needing to block the rain or whatever. But I didn't want to. It's so mind-boggling. Look, it was like the hottest day in 20 years in Mission Valley.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to say they weren't prepared to have enough ice, enough water, stuff like that, lines too long, okay, we could deal with that. But if you want to talk about the shade issue, it's just so stupid. What are they supposed to do? The games are played at night. We had one day game. It was because it was on TV. What the hell's the big deal?
To me, the funniest part was like I saw that and I glanced at the comments, and all the comments coming from outside of San Diego, like, cry some more. try going to a game in Florida. Try going to a game in Texas. Like, seeing everybody like just laugh at these people complaining in San Diego was hilarious. I don't think it was like quite the flex they thought it would be. You know, it didn't hit the only people commenting about Shadegate are people upset about Soccer City or people upset about the whole Ariza thing. It's people with an axe to grind. Those are the only ones complaining about the Shadegate. So yeah, I'm with Dan. I don't even think we should even be talking about it because it's just so ridiculous on its face.
Well, I just want to throw a shame on all those idiots out there, Soccer City trolls, still trying to get into our mentions and all that stuff. And you know what, Jason Shear, I'm giving you a shame too, man. What's the matter with you? You should know better, Jason. We had you on the show, and you're gonna come on there and say the design was flawed. Like, get out of here, Jason.
The guy who covers,
appreciate you, but get out of here.
The guy who covers Arizona football talking about San Diego needs to do better for building their stadium. Are you kidding me? Have you not been to a football game in your stadium?
I think Shear must assume that we're always going to have day games or something. You know, like, this was an anomaly. It's like, it's rare that we have one. It's rare that we're going to have one this early in the season. It's just, this is such a stupid topic.
If you're a West Coast team, just face the fact, whether you're in the Mountain West or in the Pac-12, you're going to play night games because we're on the West Coast. Like, we offer that content, evening content, when the rest of the country has already played their games. So people, we're going to play night games. Don't worry about it. You'll have something to complain about when we play too late anyway. So
they're going to be coming once this monsoon, tropical storm's coming.
All right, guys. Well, you know, it's one game. It's the opening game. We're obviously disappointed. It's Snapdragon Stadium's first game ever, but there's plenty more games left to go in the rest of the season. So, hey, tomorrow we get to talk to Greg Woods. He is going to give us an insight into Idaho State and get to know all about the Bengals. So, hey, no time to feel sorry for ourselves. Got to regroup, get better, and be back tomorrow, right?
Let's do it.
All right, guys. sonsofmontezuma.com. Check out tomorrow our next episode with Greg Woods from the Idaho State Journal. All right. Talk to you then.